response, were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought?
Welcome to our show today, the Author Brand Show, which hosts beautiful and interesting guests talking about their books and what they've done to make the world a better place. Our guest today is a dynamic bilingual facilitator. He's a speaker, certified behavior and body language expert. He combines his military training with his business background to bring laser focus to tactical solutions that always deliver measurable results. Now, he's led the change efforts that have resulted in higher performance, impact, and growth to companies you've heard of, like the CDC, Georgia Power, SunTrust Bank, Delta Airlines, and Sherman College of Chiropractic, just to name a few. He's also the author of the international acclaimed book, The Client Nation, The Perceptions, Your Profits, Their Perceptions, Your Profits. And he supervised and built teams that have resulted in increased profits and high performance teams in retail, corporate, fitness, banking, real estate, finance, education, technology arenas around the world using many of the methodologies described in his book. He's got over 25 years experience. No, he's looking so young here. Working with individuals to C-suite executives and leadership, communication, team development, hiring analysis, strategic business development, and customer service tactics. So welcome to the show today, my friend and author, Rico Peña. Rico, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome, Doug. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, you bet. Wow, that is quite a resume.
Thank you. It's been a long time building.
You know, and you gloss over the military background here, my friend, but I know a little bit more about that than perhaps some of our guests. You want to give us a little a background on you a little bit?
Sure. Behavioral scientist really is my core. It's what I focused on, is a lot what I learned in the military about communication, verbal and nonverbal, asking great questions, how to build rapport, especially in difficult situations. And I brought that into the civilian world as to working with executives, leaders, new leaders, managers, supervisors on some of the basics that most companies struggle with that don't realize. And it's just basic communication.
Yeah.
But not just communication. We can all say that all across the board. It's really, how do you ask good questions, understand what the answers mean, both verbally and non-verbally, in order to build rapport, build trust, especially with your teams, especially when you're trying to build a concept, an idea, a process, or a system. And that's really what I brought to the table, both from the military,
Right.
building 3 companies from concept to big paydays, dealing with customers and things of that nature. And, my expertise is how to understanding the behavior, the communication, and more importantly, how to make a connection that lasts.
I was thinking that, being a Marine, you just, artillery, not a lot of questions going on there. Just, ready, fire, aim, right? I mean, I don't know.
That's right. Just use a grenade fixes everything.
Okay, good enough. We're going to chat for 25 minutes today. And what are 3 or 4 takeaways people can expect from this conversation of us today?
What is really the definition of good communication? How to ask the kind of questions that make people comfortable and want to have a conversation. But more importantly, how to get that information and turn it into influence and building loyalty, whether it's customers or your team.
Nice. Okay, terrific. I love that building influence and understanding what communication really is. Are you saying that some people don't really know good communication when they hear it?
Well, Brian Tracy said it best. We all speak the same language, but use different dictionaries for each word.
Mm-hmm.
And communication isn't just about speaking or telling or getting a great story. Communication is about connecting. The root word for communication is community. But we don't speak to build communities. We speak just to transfer information, right? But we don't take in consideration is what we're transmitting being received in the intent that we want it to.
Yeah.
Imagine sending an email, and it's a nice email, but the person on the other end is having a really, really bad day.
Yeah.
They're not going to read that email in the manner you intended it. And how many times have you walked into the office and a person's perception of you for that day is not a good one? Doesn't matter what you say, it's going to go through that filter. So how do we not just communicate, but how do we connect the intent of our communication?
Wow, that's a great example. So I can't control if somebody's having a bad day or not.
Right.
So
But you can observe that, you can see that that person's having a bad day and realize you need to change your approach to that person. Where we're wanting to get things done, get results, especially if you're a leader, you have a high performance team, you got deadlines and goals that you need to achieve. You're not really thinking about what's going on with this person today.
right.
And it gets overlooked. Instead of asking questions to get to the root cause of why that person's there, that person's going to have that type of focus or that type of intensity, that temperament throughout the day, which can poison the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So as a good leader, you observe someone, that person is off. Let's just
Mhm.
have a conversation to see why they're off. Could be, they just found out that they're pregnant, or they found out they're about to lose their house. There's a lot of different things
Right.
that they can bring to the workforce that can affect performance.
One of the biggest shifts I've seen, we both study the same things, I think, time and time again, but I keep seeing this big shift from dialogues to monologues, right? It used to be
Right.
have conversation, I could see them, I could read their face, their energy, or on the phone, I could hear the tone of their voice. But in this texting email generation, it's so difficult, if not impossible, to know where they are. How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's been a challenge, and one of the ways we've been able to do that is to understand adjectives, understand what we call locus of control. So the adjectives, the words, how do they describe certain things? What words are they using to describe a particular circumstance can tell you a lot about where that person is. So if they are describing something in a more positive manner, they typically are positive and outgoing, and all of a sudden they're using words that are very negative or short, there is a red flag,
Yeah.
right? Individuals who tend to use I tend to be more, their locus of control is more internal. It's about me. We is about us in this conversation. And team, everybody else, tends to be all about working with a team. So by just listening to the words they use for different circumstances tells you what's the focus and what we call the center core for that individual. So if I'm talking to someone who's very team focused, we're going to be talking about team, collective, organizationally. That's their natural comfort zone. If I'm talking to an I type of person, then we're going to talk about here's what we're going to do and how you can do it and how you can accomplish it.
Mm.
Those subtle adjustments, what you're doing is fine tuning to that individual's way of thinking, listening, and deciding. You're speaking a language that they can comprehend. So, words you're using, ideas that you want, are going through a filter that is familiar to them. What we tend to do naturally is use what's familiar to us, it's what's comfortable to us. That's like classical music trying to talk to heavy metal. There's a disconnect there, right? Or two foreign languages.
Yeah.
So we've all been brought up with our culture, our IQ, influences, all our value mechanism creates a tonality. And when you listen to the words they use and you reuse them back, you're speaking in what they're comfortable in their natural state.
Wow, that's really powerful. Give me an example of maybe one of these companies that people know about, or maybe make it anonymous, perhaps, of a situation where it seemed like this is impossible to fix this, and you were able to turn it around through your communication strategies.
Sure. Brand new leader who just got promoted, top performer in sales. Pandemic hits,
Yep.
right? He hasn't even seen his team. A quarter of his team has been doing this job for over 30 years. The others have only been doing it for 5 years, and he has brand new recruits, right? And he's doing all of this virtually. And he's realizing very, very quickly how not only difficult it is to do this virtually, he's trying to implement a new system, which is why they promoted them. And on top of that, he's trying to buy trust and respect virtually.
Yeah.
So when I started working with them, the very first thing that we do with any new organization is that we use scientific assessments. There's no sense in guessing. And this is based on brainwave technology. Every participant takes it. And now you have an x-ray, almost a manual for each individual. It tells you their temperament. It tells you what motivates them, their ideal environment, how to communicate with them, how when they're under pressure and stress, what are their perceptions. So it gives you everything as a foundational component. And once we have that, I could work with him and say, okay, when you're going to work with this individual, say someone is very social and outgoing, now they're stuck in a box. Well, you need to invite those people 20 or 30 minutes before the meeting
Mm.
and have a social conversation. See how they're doing, how's their family, how are they dealing with all of this? Because if you don't, it's going to come out in the meeting. It's almost like a pressure cooker. They need
Mhm.
somewhere to relieve steam in a social environment. Those that are more task oriented, they need an agenda prior to. They need to know what their role is and what the meeting's all about and how long it's going to take. As soon as the meeting starts, it needs to be about business. So now you're handling those task individuals.
Uh,
And for him, he had a big group of 30 plus in the industry. Said,
yeah.
you need to sit down with those guys at least a couple days prior, pitch them, and get their opinion on what to do and how to do it. So now you have buy-in. They're now part of the conversation.
Mhm.
So when the meeting started, everything went well. He knew who to talk to, who to ask. What we already prepared some questions based on those reports, based on the opinion from the senior people. He actually let the senior people lead some components that he prepared them for.
Yeah.
And the meeting went really, really well. And he started to get trust. He started to get rapport because he now understood I need to tailor my conversation, especially virtually, to certain temperaments, certain age groups, and certain experiences. And when the moment he realized this is not a meeting, this is an experience tailored to each individual participant, he was able to communicate more efficiently.
Wow, that's amazing. It's kind of like you have a manual, like an operating manual for each person based on
Exactly.
experience, huh?
Absolutely. Every person now has an instruction manual of how to communicate, what works for them, what doesn't, what environment to thrive, who's stressed in these virtual environments and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
he at least had information and data to work from. And as he communicates, you can fine tune. And that's why questions are so critical. We too often ask either close ended question, leading questions, multiple choice questions, just to get to what you want.
Right.
And that's the other thing, just for communication. For questions, what is the intent of what you're asking?
Right. Right.
Are you asking to understand or are you asking to get to an answer?
Uh-huh.
Two totally separate things.
Yeah.
And because the human brain hears intent, hears that tonality, if you are asking to lead them somewhere, the brain's going to shut down. Wait a minute, this is like an interrogation. But when you can ask very simple questions for your listeners that are leaders, there are three questions designed to open the subconscious mind. And as human beings, we can't help but answer.
That's right.
The first one is help me to understand whatever. So you're speaking to one of your employees, you're doing a one-on-one, and he's explaining a particular process of why he's comfortable doing something, but it doesn't give you a lot of detail. That's when you bring in that, you know what, I really am interested in knowing more about that. Can you help me understand how we got there? And they'll give you more information. The other great question is walk me through.
Okay.
Walk me through your thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the key is not just the words in the question, it's the tone. You
Yeah.
have to be naturally curious. You want to really understand. That's the magic. You know what? Walk me through your thought process. The tone's different than walk me through that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, tone plays a role here because the tonality that you use, it's either going to be soft and open or you're going to close. Any conversation you've ever had in your life, especially when you're asking questions, is going to cause one or two things to happen to the brain and to the body. You're either opening someone up with your tone and question, or you're closing them up.
Wow.
When you start getting one word answers, that's closed. But when you start asking nice and a tone, curious, they're going to open naturally.
Yeah.
And the third question is, what impact did that have? So especially, this is really good with sales when they're making decisions or they chose to put someone into CRM and you're asking about the client. Well, what impact did your recommendation have? Or what impact did our product have? Now it's not a probing question. It doesn't bring up walls. it causes that person to bring in. And there's a bonus question depending on the situation,
Yeah, right.
especially when you're dealing with seniors.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on? As human beings, we can't help but give our opinions. Even when we don't
Yeah.
get asked, we're giving our opinion, right?
Right.
So utilizing that helps that conversation and helps that person to be more open. The more open they are, the more are they feel comfortable in sharing.
Dude, we have talked for months about stuff, and I'm taking notes. I still take notes talking to you. This is great.
Thank you.
Seriously, I'm like, wow, this is powerful. One of my good friends is Noah St. John. He he uh he penned the book Affirmations, not affirmations, Affirmations. He said the reason affirmations don't work is because we say one thing consciously, subconsciously we're saying another, right? So I'm happy, I'm healthy. No, I'm miserable and depressed. Right? So he coined the term affirmations, where you take that same thing and said, why am I happy? How does a healthy person eat? And because what you said is so spot on, the brain cannot not answer or try to answer a question. The subconscious goes to work on it.
Exactly.
So it's a great book. I'll make sure you get hook up with
Yeah.
Noah. He's a brilliant guy. This is really good stuff. So it brings me to your title of your new book here I see behind you.
Yeah.
It's not business, it's personal, which is a play on words that everybody always says it's not personal, it's business. And you're saying the exact opposite. Tell me about that title.
So this started in the pandemic, kind of the reason why, kind of the conversations we're having.
Yeah.
I was working with so many of these young supervisors and managers and executives running into the exact same problem. So what happens is you get these top performers, they get promoted, and they know everything about the industry and their product,
Yeah.
but they're never put through management or leadership training. So what do? They go back to what got me to this in the first place. Well, not everyone is them. So they don't have the skill sets or the tools to be really good leaders. And good leadership is not about the business or the numbers or the quota. It's about that one-on-one relationship you have with each individual on your team and the team as a collective. And that's why we came up with that title. This is not about business. If you want to be a great leader, it's about the personal relationships you have. The number one rule I learned in the military is that each one of my teammates are different, bring a different skill set, require a different motivation. You got to know them personally, because then when you bring them collectively, you know what that culture is, but how to interact with each individual.
Wow.
And that's why the subtitle is about strategic conversations.
Right.
The challenge every one of those new leaders was all about communication. How do I influence? How do I bring my ideas? How do I build trust with these guys and gals as well? Not just guys, everyone on their team.
Right.
And they didn't know how to. They realized very quickly what got them there wasn't going to work in a leadership role. And it's a shame that most companies don't consider that in the promotional phase. You're promoting a great talent, but you're not giving them the tools to succeed, which is why you lose great talent, because you're setting them up for failure. Just as you expected them to learn product, service, and culture, they need to also train how do you learn to be a great exceptional leader and manager and supervisor, because now that's your role. And most leaders think that their teams work for them. It's not the case. It's the other way around. You work for your teams. If you as a leader gets fired, it doesn't affect the team. If the entire team walks out, it affects you, right?
Yeah.
What they do affects your bottom line. So you're really working on making sure they have everything they need, the training they need. You're no longer a boss. You are a mentor, you're an advisor, and you're a teacher. That's what you are. And that's what the book is all about, giving them a lot of instruction after 10 years of working with leaders, but more importantly, what I saw this last year on the mentality, the strategies, communication, tactics of what to do as a leader. And this is not just philosophy. Was what we did and what worked, not only the last 10 years, but mostly in this last year and a half with these new leaders during the pandemic, and all the results that we got through this. Was phenomenal. I was so happy with what these guys were able to do with what we did.
Gosh, I'm just scratching like 2% of the surface of this stuff. I usually at my team meetings, like, what can I do for you? What can I do to help you out? Nobody says anything. I think they're too shy to chime in.
Yeah.
I have a horrible culture of people who are just introvert. Okay, it's fine.
Yes, but that's why they're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And that's when and that happens a lot. So when you look at, we brought in Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah.
and the 5 dysfunctions. And one of the 5 dysfunctions is the fear of conflict. And that's what you have. When we look at behaviors, you have behaviors that are very introverted, that don't really like conflict.
Right.
Which tells me there may be a level of trust, but not enough to overcome the fear of conflict.
Right.
So it's having those conversations that this is not about conflict. This is about support. This is about team growth, team performance. And maybe explaining to them, when I ask, what do you need? I really mean, what do you need? I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. And it goes back to what words you use. If you have introverted, more reserved team, it's the words, I'm here to serve. I'm here to make sure you have everything you need. Don't be afraid to ask, because I want the best for you and the team. Those words resonate with that group. Versus the high performing team, what do you guys need to kick ass? What are you missing? What tools do you need?
Right.
Well, come whining to me later when you wish you had it. I'm asking now.
Yep.
Right? Two exact same message, 2 ways to direct it.
You got to match their personality, I guess, right? Okay.
Correct.
Maybe do more one-on-one. In the group setting, they're probably even more reluctant.
Yeah, more one-on-one.
One-on-one may be easier. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for that management tip. I need that today. It's great. Oh my gosh. In closing, obviously people get the book on Amazon. I know it's in sale recently here. How do people get a hold of you?
They can reach me through www.peñaglobal.net. They reach me there. They can call me, 770-616-8080. Send me a text, and I'll be happy to respond. You can schedule a 15-minute conversation. If you're an executive, if you're a leader, if you're hiring new people right now, don't guess. We have the science to help you find the right people. If you have top leaders and supervisors, don't just throw them into that position. We can provide you with a lot of insight and training to make sure that you elevate that person and create that high performance team that leads to an impressive customer journey that increases revenue and increases that customer loyalty. That's our expertise. So reach out to us by phone, by email, rico@peñaglobal.net, our website, www.peñaglobal.net.
And get a copy of this book. It's a good one. Obviously, learning a lot. I'm writing down my questions here, so I appreciate it, Rico. Thanks so much.
Guys, your team did an amazing job. Thank you so very much. And I want to let those of you, this is not just an average book. It's very interactive. It's got QR codes throughout the book for videos, podcasts, and a few surprises that you might like.
Ooh, surprise. I like that. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Rico Peña from Peña Global. Get his book. Check him out. He knows what he's talking about, obviously. Thanks so much. And don't forget to click below and subscribe to our show. There's some goodies for you there as subscribers as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Doug.